Hi, I'm Charlotte, and you're watching The Ugly Atheist. I wanted to take a moment to discuss the attempt on our former president, or President Trump's life. As all of us probably got the news yesterday, happened in the morning out there in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I had a feeling something like this would have happened. I was surprised it didn't happen sooner with as much hatred as the left is spewing out regarding Trump and like literally talking about putting a target on him. All this horribly violent rhetoric coming from the left. Seems inevitable that something like this would have happened, and it's super fortunate that it merely grazed his ear, which is still traumatic enough. If that happened to me, I'd be freaking out. Trump kept himself together, and he made a point to, as he was being hustled away by the Secret Service, he made a point to let the crowd know that he was okay, and gave a message of, I don't want to say encouragement, but just a message of courage, I guess, to just keep fighting. But I guess what we sort of know so far is that the shooter was this 20-year-old kid named Michael Taylor Crooks, I believe. And the irony of his last name is not lost on me. But he was climbing up onto the roof. A lot of people saw him and pointed him out, and I'm sure he saw people pointing at him. And so he obviously knew that it wasn't going to end well for him, a suicide mission for him. But I don't know what the gun laws in Pennsylvania are, but obviously this 20-year-old kid was able to access a sniper rifle. I don't know much about guns either, so I don't know what kind of gun he had, but he was about 150 to 200 yards away from Trump on an unprotected rooftop that the Secret Service obviously should have been more diligent about making sure that every possible place for an assassin to hide would be sniffed out and secured. But not only did people try to notify law enforcement that this gunman was clearly up on the roof and taking aim, from what the eyewitnesses are saying is that the police didn't do anything. Law enforcement didn't really do anything, or they did, but they waited too long. I don't know what the deal is with that. That seems to be the case with law enforcement in general lately. I know there's that whole movement a couple years ago where they were trying to ban the police, and I think a lot of the good cops ended up just leaving the force, and they had to be replaced by presumably DEI hires or hires of people. I think they had to get more recruits to replace the officers that left. They probably had to broaden their scope of what qualifies, meaning that they hired less qualified people, maybe people who don't have a vested interest in the community, probably people from other areas who don't have a stake in the community. Whatever the case may be, we're getting a lot influx of officers that don't seem to have protecting the public as their priority. And that's obviously a bad thing. There were officers, law enforcement personnel on top of another, what looks like a roof from the pictures I've seen, who were similarly perched with their sniper rifles. I guess they were counter snipers. People are saying that these counter sniper personnel, law enforcement personnel, took their time and they waited till the gunman shot first before they shot. And I think there's a lot of conspiracies being floated around because of that this was some kind of inside job, and that they allowed that gunman to get up there, and they waited till he shot first. I don't know. Obviously, none of us knows how accurate or inaccurate that is. I would tend to think that that's not what's happening, but at this stage, you never know. I mean, and the wildest conspiracies seem to be actually the truth, which is mind-blowing. There's a saying that I'm sure you are well aware of: don't attribute to malice what can be explained by incompetence or stupidity. And that's what I think might be at play here. The counter sniper officers who are up on the roof, maybe they were inexperienced, maybe they were new, I don't know, maybe they were underqualified, but for some reason they hesitated to shoot, and the gunman was just a 20-year-old kid. Not to downplay at all what he did. I mean, he deserves what he got tenfold. But he, what I mean to say with this is that he's probably similarly inexperienced, and he missed his shot at 150 yards. I don't know, I'm not a sniper, but I imagine that's pretty close to miss a shot. So he clearly wasn't trained and didn't know what he was doing. And he thankfully missed Trump, but he did end up killing another rally attendee. Oh, I'm sorry, the shooter's name is Thomas Matthew Crooks. I think I misspoke earlier. But he ended up shooting and killing, I guess this is the only death, and several other people were critically injured, but the victim, the guy who died, was Corey Comparatori. It looks like he used himself to shield his wife and his daughters from the bullets, and he got struck in the head. There was an emergency medic nearby who was trying to render aid to Corey, but he was not able to save him. I guess the wounds were catastrophic. But what really is upsetting to me, aside from, of course, the horrible attempt on Trump's life and the loss of Corey. Oh, by the way, I guess Trump has endorsed a GoFundMe for the family, which I'm sure he's contributing to the families of the injured people at his rally. And I fully expect that once Trump is ready to, he's probably going to go pay those family members a visit. Because that's just something Trump would do. I imagine that's something Trump would do. But aside from that immediate horror, I think what really struck me as egregious is the headlines from the media regarding this event. They were, I'm sure you've heard and seen them. Let me pull one up here there were headlines, like there's one from NBC News that said, Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after popping noises heard at the Pennsylvania rally. Trump escorted away after loud noises at rally. Donald Trump escorted off stage by Secret Service during rally after loud noises. Like, what the actual F is up with these? Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises. Like, none of them even approached the idea that he was it was an assassination attempt. They're so transparently against Trump that they can't even explain what happened. Like, these are the people who probably caused this with their hateful rhetoric, and the headlines don't even reflect the reality of the situation. It was literally an attempted killing of our former president, Donald J. Trump. Like, it obviously makes you wonder what's really going on behind the scenes. I know there's people talking about the deep state and that this is all part of some way to get Trump from achieving any kind of power where he can shake things up the way he was going to and the way he probably will if he gets elected. But the fear is palpable. It's so clearly, I don't think anyone's revealed this much of deep state activity as Donald Trump has, whether intentionally or not. He stirred up a hornet's nest, and now we're seeing almost a reality that we kind of suspected was there, but now it's obvious. I mean, someone's trying to end Trump and keep him from power, and it's not just the news. It's not just his political opponents. It's obviously something much bigger than that. I'm not good at speculating about conspiracies, but something's up, and I think all of us can feel it. And it's been that way for years now. If not, I mean, it was just a slow simmer for decades, I would imagine, and people have always suspected that something was going on, but yes, everyone just thought, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, and a lot of people are. I mean, if you catch your government enough times lying to you, at what point are you justified in feeling, paranoid about what your government's really up to? I don't see that as necessarily an irrational response to what the government's doing. I know a lot of other people are saying that the Secret Service, which seem to be a strangely a lot of female agents, that I found that kind of like, oh, I didn't realize that there's so many Secret Service agents were women. But if you look at the ones that were surrounding Trump when they brought him, ushered him to the car, like a lot of them were women, and they just seemed to be wandering around like they didn't quite know what they were doing or what to do. They got him in the car safely. That's great. The director of Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, I guess, has publicly stated in the recent past, that they are going to try to include more diversity and among their agents and in their organization. And I don't know. I mean, I think diversity is great, but I think if it's pertaining to a job where lives are on the line, like airline pilots or security detail, I mean, sure, you can say we're going to cast a broad net, but at the same time, you cannot compromise the standards by which someone would qualify. If someone doesn't qualify, they don't qualify. You can't fairly say, well, we're going to lower our standards so as in the name of diversity. I mean, people's lives are on the line. You can't do that. I mean, certain industries, I think it's okay to lower your standards to let other people have a chance. Perhaps school teacher might be something that's pretty critical too, but I think no one's going to lose their life if you have a slightly less qualified teacher. But for something like law enforcement or airline pilots and any number of really critical positions and jobs, you really can't afford to lower your standards just for the sake of diversity. I guess to wrap this up, yesterday was just tragic. I did cry. I don't want anything to happen to Trump. He's my guy. I'm voting for him, and I think he can turn this country around. And I think Vivek Ramaswamy said something to this effect also, is that this movement about just getting back to normalcy and restoring our economy and ending the corruption is an idea that's bigger than just Trump. It's bigger than any one person. So I think if something were to happen to Trump, I don't think the movement's gonna fizzle out. I think this is something powerful. It's something that's necessary. We do need to get the corruption out of government. Trump is poised to do just that. I know he's difficult to predict sometimes, but I know based on what he says, the way he phrased it is draining the swamp. I don't think he's going to be able to do that alone. In fact, I know he can't But at least he's going to get the ball rolling, and hopefully people like Vivek and others and Matt Gaetz will step up to the plate, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, these are ideologues in their own way, but I think when you have a pit bull with you and it's gnashing its teeth at the enemy, even though it's dangerous and it's in some ways, at least it's on your side and it's doing the work that needs to be done. I don't agree with everything that these people might endorse, but I agree with most of it, and that's all that matters with something like this, where we do need to get the government away from the bureaucrats and the deep state and put it back in the hands of the people. So that's kind of my 2 cents worth, and I wish Trump well, and I hope I know he'll be able to continue campaigning, and it's ironic how this would give him a boost in the polls when the left are hoping that it doesn't, and maybe that's why they're kind of trying to downplay the event as much as they are, because they simply don't want to give him. I mean, the man almost got killed, and they're still thinking about politics. That's ridiculous. I know a lot of people are saying that God was protecting Trump during that attempt on his life. And as an atheist, I don't obviously believe that. I think the gunman missed not because of any angels or anything, but because that gunman was just this young kid and totally incompetent and ideologically driven. So he clearly was not thinking with a steady mind. I think more is going to come out about the shooter, but you're not going to hear it from the left-leaning media. They're not going to give any details about it. They're going to try to cover it up, or even worse, they're going to try to make him seem like a misunderstood, this poor person, he grew up abused or whatever, and he was given access to guns, or whatever their spin is going to be. But if anything else comes out about this kid, perhaps a manifesto that he left behind or something, we're only going to hear it, unfortunately, from right-wing sources. But as long as the truth comes out, I guess it doesn't matter what side is pushing it. So I guess I'm going to leave this episode here. My name is Charlotte. You're watching The Ugly Atheist. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next week.